Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Nerds of Legend. Today we're talking about another book. My name is Bryan. With me, as always, is Ben and Joel, and of course, Missy.
No.
She's the smart one.
Yep. She is the smart one.
She is the smart one.
That is exactly why we're going to have her start us off by giving us a brief summary, spoiler-free, of the book.
I like that you prefaced it by saying that I am the smart one when in fact this is fairy porn. Yes, but it's fairy porn light, and that is a part. So
it's just
I know.
It's just like whenever it happens, it's just like so suddenly, like all of a sudden, bam! I'm just reading about like fake court politics. All of a sudden, by the way, impaled. I'm like, ah!
Well, maybe you just don't pick up on social cues, Ben. Maybe it's the engineer in you.
Maybe it is. Maybe that's my problem.
So. Feyre, so this is A Court of Thorn and Roses, my copy's upstairs, is
okay. Hold on for a second.
Yeah, Brian's like, let me pull into my bag of holding that I have.
I know, I have the other four down here. Yes.
Ooh.
I want to point out a note to show just how intelligent I am. It wasn't until the end of the book that I realized Acotar was not a character in the book. And Bryan and Sam have laughed at me abhorrently, but I so did Missy, because I did not put together, because acronyms are not how I think of the world. And I was, in fact, mocked mercilessly by those closest to me. And Ben is currently still mocking me for it.
Honestly, he deserves it.
Yeah, he does. That was not Prime Joel.
So, A Court of Thorn and Roses, Acotar, for short.
Fuck you for a full phrase.
Is a loose modern retelling of Beauty and the Beast. So, Feyre is a mortal girl. This is set in, if you open like the first page or something, you can see that she basically just like put like her map of like Prythian and everything over the UK.
No.
So like this is just the UK, but with fairy terms.
Mm-hmm.
So she lives close to the wall that separates the mortal world from the fairy world, and they're poor, and she's out hunting, and she makes a decision that changes the course of her life. So she's thrown into this world that she never wanted, she never thought of, and so it's a story about her overcoming her prejudices and, you know, showing just how capable she is in a world where mortals are not valued very highly.
Mm-hmm. I also would point out that basically this is basically Beauty and the Beast, but with fairies, and replace Belle with Katniss Everdeen, and you've got this book series. That is this book.
Katniss is way more competent than Feyre is.
Yes and no. I was just more referring to like the hunting and like leading the household at a young age and all that stuff. That's in my head anyway. That's what it was like. It was just like, actually, I was trying to think. So, go ahead. Never mind. I lost my thought.
With that brief summary out of the way, I do have to give a bit of a warning. This book does contain explicit material, and therefore, you know, if you are, say, below a certain age, or if you have, you know, virgin eyes, perhaps this book is not the one for you.
Touchy stuff that's not violence. There's violence in there, Ben.
Hey, Alex. Good to see you.
Oh, nice.
Hey, Alex.
Bob Ross banging the Kraken. Love. Oh, that was beautiful.
Good timing.
His timing, as always, is spectacular.
So then, given that particular note of interest, Missy, on the spice level, where would you rank this book?
I didn't even remember remember it. So I'd rank it pretty low. I mean, there is some sex, but it's not very explicit. I thought it was mostly fade to black until Ben was scandalized. On the scale of 1 to 5, I'd give it maybe 1.5 little peppers. It's not. It's
1.5 little. What is a 5 for you? Just curious. Yeah, I would actually. Oh, she's like, in our marriage, we've only been to a 1 pepper. Fuck.
Well, you haven't nodded her yet, so I mean. Goddamn mom.
Yeah, so
anyways,
it's not if you're not used to any sex, you will be scandalized.
It wasn't scandalized.
Every time we talk about it.
I know.
that was a low key shot at Ben. Oh yeah, if you never had sex before.
I just.
I call Joel a virgin all the time, which is awesome because I am literally carrying his child. So
yeah. There's
evidence
to the fact that
I'm well aware it wasn't that.
Situation.
That this
Artificial insemination it was. Got it.
Shut up.
I'm well aware that this wasn't that spicy. It was just I was told that this book was fade to black, and then it just went from 0 to sheathed in me until I splintered.
That was the only line, but it was kind of startling. It was he sheathed himself in me, and you're like, wow.
And I splintered apart. I was like, what the hell is this?
Jumping right into spoilers, but only of the sex wording. We're not telling you the spoilers of the story, but we are telling you your terrible euphemisms for penetration.
No, this is so bad.
But that was the only one.
I know it was the only one. It was just it was like a startling left turn in the whole book, and then
I really
it never got brought up again.
The way you had been he's shit impaled, which you never said impaled. I really was expecting just me to
Hardcore,
eventually, as I'm reading this book, just get to this hardcore being dicked down story, and never got there. I was like, I didn't see impaled once. I felt a little cheated. I was just sheathed once and done.
Wait for this.
I don't want to do that. That sounds like a terrible term.
Wait for what?
So book 4. So the first 3.
We're not.
The first 3 books.
We have
plus
to
a novella.
convince Ben to read book 4.
The first 3 books plus a novella follow Thera, and then the 4th book, fourth full book, follows Nesta.
It's the Silver Flames.
Yes.
I was wanting up.
Hello, puppy.
Hello, puppy. He needs to be part. He's a very big fan of Fairy Thorn.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, I do have to agree. Even though the second book, which I love the stories right now. I'm well into the second book, and I think it's wonderful.
You're balls deep in the second, then?
Balls deep. But one of the points of the second book that I find hilarious is right in the beginning, and she's explaining all of her needs and desires and how he got into her, and he took her, and then 3 pumps later, and he's done. And I was like, wow, this is 3 thrusts and game over. But they were
you're really selling it, Ted.
I'm really selling it. I know, look, you could see his face. And the great part of this is going to be on a podcast, that we can tell them whatever the hell we want with his face. So Ben is, of course, grinning ear to ear and blushing red as he's writing notes down. To get
yeah, that's very obviously what my face that I'm making.
But I'm
right
pandering
now
to the podcast here, not the stream. Ben is taking notes and drawing diagrams on a notepad in the back of his head.
One-handed.
One-handed.
Where is it?
Why is the camera shaking so much?
Why is the camera shaking? That's not a microphone. We see it on your boobs.
God damn, that's a lot of lotion.
Right, that is. Ben, you're disgusting. Trying to have a decent conversation. Be an adult.
Stop making it weird.
Yeah. So anyways,
Getting
we're
back
all
to the
embarrassed of Ben right now, so.
Joel, you said that you are already into book 2, so...
Mm-hmm. I had a very hard... I had a very strong reaction to the character because I found in the very beginning, and Missy and I had a nice argument about it, where I made a preemptive judgment of Feyre being like this hollow character where they just took like classical archetypes from fairy tales that are typically masculine archetypes like the lone hunter or the provider and then just made something happen. And then, but it was a premature assessment. She's not very well defined in the very beginning. It is kind of like more of the setting that I feel is being told. And then all of a sudden, when it happens, stuff happens really fast. And I'm not going to say the reader, I was horrifically annoyed by the character of her because she is just the most colossal pain in the ass for like the first quarter to third of the book. Half?
I'd say
all right.
half.
No, okay, maybe that.
But like,
I'd
think
say the
about
third
it, like,
are definite.
your whole life since you were 11, like the last 8 years of your life has been dedicated to keeping your family alive.
Right.
You lost your
I
fortune,
get.
capital.
Well, the thing is, that's not like really gone into until like halfway into the book, and I'm like,
Yeah.
like. Because the first half of her book is her, like, bitching, like, my family doesn't care about me. They won't even, like, you know, like, blah, 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 like, fuck my dad, like, he's a dick. Like, this whole first half of the book, she's just, like, all angst. I was like, this bitch is 19. Where's this angst coming from? But, like, and I get, and, like, yes. And, like, I feel like the problem with it was, like, they revealed that stuff about like her promise and her stuff like way too late in the book until like if that would have come in earlier I would have been like, oh okay, like I get why she's kind of like I get why she's stupid.
Well,
without getting into spoilers, I want to ask Joel, like, you know, because you are sometimes a hard sell on a book, you know what I'm saying? Like, because you care about the story a lot, you know what I'm saying? So if something doesn't have a good story, you're typically not going to keep reading it. Now, you're already into book 2, which tells me that you're at least somewhat invested into this. But, like, on the Joel scale, where would you say the story is?
I mean,
without
I'm not
giving
going
away spoilers.
I don't know, like a 7? Like I mean, if you come in there expecting it to be an original tale with original setting, like Sarah Maas does a good job in creating a unique world, but like you definitely can see it's a copy and pasting of like the Beast Chateau, you know?
Oh yeah.
Except instead of like a talking and singing,
instead of a library, there's an art gallery. Like
the library comes.
Yeah.
Okay, it happens in the second book. Didn't happen in the book that I read, so I
enjoyed it. I liked the story. I think it takes a very, very unique turn in the second book.
Okay. Ben, same question to you. Like, where does this book sit with you? I mean, did you finish it? Are you into it? Like, are you going to the second book?
I actually didn't have many issues with this one. It was kind of hard to get into, like me and Joel have kind of alluded to, but like once it finally like picked up, I enjoyed it. I did find it, there were times where I was a little like, it was very tropey at times, especially like we'll talk about it later in the spoilers section, but like there were times where I was like, oh, this is just like ripped straight out of some grim fairy tale shit, you know. And which is fine. Like I said, you're not looking. This book isn't like a unique experience, but I think it was a very well told sort of like classic fairy tale story, but with a new twist. You know, I enjoyed it.
Unfortunately, it's marketed as young adult, so that's where you get a lot of the angst. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you get that feeling, that come of age, that nobody understands me, I'm trying to do all this stuff, right?
Yeah, but it was like shoehorned so, like, it was like, I don't think it was marketed properly. Like, I think that you could have done the first half of the book completely differently and not market it as they did it as a young adult novel as a cash grab is what it felt like.
Yeah.
Well, what's hilarious is that it's actually shelved in the young adult section for a lot of places, which is just fantastic for anyone who is like.
Even though it's pretty, I feel like
Yeah.
that, like a lot of the scenes are a little bit,
Much for kids.
yeah, a little bit
Young
much
adult?
for young adult.
What is young adult? What is age?
The high school.
Well,
Like,
so
typically.
there was a shift in the publishing industry that like young adult was really emerging. That like you had around like Hunger Games. Really, after that, a lot of more adult themes started coming.
Mhm.
So that they created a new section called New Adult, but a lot of bookstores haven't really caught up to it,
Yeah.
so it's not. So they're grouped.
Yeah, it's just like for being like what was.
Is it?
Can be.
So
It's all the same, right?
that's
So
what I'm
that's
saying.
the
Like,
issue.
I thought Percy Jackson is like young adult,
No.
and like that's what I'm saying. You just said it can be.
Depends on where they want to show, like where they. But ultimately, this is not young adult, but that's where you get those feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I feel like I can't remind me of the author's name.
Sarah J Maas.
Yeah. I feel like I'm not going to remember that, but I feel like the book was sort of like written out, and then they were like, you're not going to be able to sell this as a fantasy book because it's not either, because as like an adult fantasy book, like, because it's not spicy enough, you know, but like,
that is fantasy, like, and it's in the complaint there is that there's not enough sex.
right, so it's like not spicy enough to hit that adult thing, so I feel like she changed the first half of the book with all the like shoved a bunch of like YA themes in there, and then all of a sudden bam, we got to like the actual meat of the book right around when Vera got sheathed.
Did you have like a lead up, like where you have to put Vera got sheathed some point?
No, that actually popped in my head just
in front of
now.
him, he's running off.
That was excellently done.
That was off. That was off the top of my head. I swear to you.
Vera getting sheathed has lived in your brain since you read it.
It has. Well, it's just like the imagery of sheathed and splintered, and I was just like, that doesn't even sound nice.
No. And as somebody who like is an avid fantasy like aficionado, nobody sheathes their sword gently. It's always like it does not give me like when I think of it, I'm not like, well, that sounds very romantic.
Yeah.
No.
That also goes down to like how men write sex and how women write sex.
Oh, yeah.
It's completely.
Women want to be sheathed, apparently. Men plunge.
Men talk about how women like are
Men-
fully aware of every time their boobs.
They are. Just like I know where my balls are at any moment of the day. All the time. It's a conversation we had, like, if women wrote the same thing as men do, like walking down the stairs, you'd be like, firmly aware of my balls bouncing in my trousers. Because when men write about females, they're only thinking about what their boobs are doing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm like super echoey, aren't I?
Just loud. All right, Brian. Next question.
Yeah, moving right on down the line. I think because today's going to be a slightly shorter episode, I think we can kind of segment this off here. Really fast, though, if you guys want to give like a quick number rating for the book for the audience, so that before we jump into spoiler territory, where do we want to, what would you say, 1 to 10, Missy?
You don't read Acotar to read Acotar. Like, you read Acotar to read the second, right? Like, but when you finish the first book, you're happy with it. You're content where it ends. It can be a standalone, so let's say an 8. But then knowing what you know later, like, it's not the weakest. I'd say it's the third. If you were to rank it, it'd be the third one.
Okay.
I can second that. I would give a 7 or 8 for the book. It's not. It does end like you could put the book down and not pick it back up and be like, "This is good." I enjoyed the journey it took me on. Some parts I thought were ridiculous. Some parts I thought were unnecessary. But all in all, I enjoyed the story. It was a good story. Some parts of it surprised me, and I did not like the main character at the very beginning. And near the end, I liked her quite a bit. She's still whiny, but and she maintains that into the second book, her whininess. But it was pretty solid. I would read it again, and I would recommend it.
Good news for you guys. It's been picked up by Hulu, I believe, and it's going to be.
Oh, thank fucking God. All right.
Oh, I was worried.
Yeah. Now we can see her sheathed on the screen.
I'd say
the audience then is taking a note again on his notepad.
I would say probably I'd give this like a 6.5, 7. If I wasn't reading it for this podcast, I probably wouldn't have finished it. It would have lost me fairly early on.
At the sheathing?
No, before that.
He was invested once she was sheathed.
Oh, once she was sheathed.
No, that was not where I was invested. That was whatever.
That's where it really.
I think my big thing was that it was hard to get, and like there was so much like unexplained anger coming from Vera until like all of a sudden they decided like, here's the info dump to Tamlin. And then we were like, oh, now I know why Vera hates things so much. Feyre. Or Vey.
Were you reading F-E-R-Y-A the entire time?
I didn't read it, I listened to it.
Ah.
Feyre. I also listened to it. I've read it before, but I audiobook this.
Like or
F-E-I-F-E-Y-R-A.
As in the Fae.
Oh. Okay.
That's horrible. When you break it down like that, that's even stupider.
All
I'm
right.
never reading again because apparently picking up things is not my forte.
Okay. Feyre.
Now I'm never.
Sorry.
Feyre, like She-Ra. Like
I couldn't tell the entire book what the name was because of the author, or the reader. But yeah, overall, I think it was a pretty solid book for what it was. Like I said, it was like a bit tropey at times. It was like kind of like, but it wasn't a bad read. But it probably wouldn't have like kept me heavily invested. But if I take the book overall, it was by the end of it, I was fairly invested in it. So,
okay. Just a kind of little section in between here, so we can jump into spoilers.
What about you? You haven't given yours.
What do you mean? I haven't given anything out of this book yet.
Oh, well. What's your opinion? Before you...
It's because Sam has read it.
He's read it
Have
too.
you read it?
Yeah.
Okay. He's very knowingly like...
Yeah,
you know, I'm like, Joel, just a quick note. If the episode of this that goes up doesn't have, like, in the subtitle, the sheathing, I think you're doing it wrong.
I'm going to put it, the sheathing of Feyre, as we talk about Acotar. Yeah, the sheathing of Vera, as we talk about Acotar.
Okay. So, jumping into spoiler territory. Missy, why don't you start us off? Like, do you think that this book...
Just once.
Do you think that this book has a satisfying conclusion, or would you say that like it leans a little too heavily into? Well, because like sometimes you know how like when you're reading a book, you can always tell when there's going to be a second book by the way that they lead into it, sort of thing. Do you feel that this is a good standalone read, like you could read this and be okay, or do you feel like it leans too heavily into, hey, this is a series now?
I think it depends on what you know going into it. Because, like, so my friend, Libby, who's supposed to be on this, she was the one who recommended it to me. And she was like, you read the first one to get the right? And so I knew something was coming, and I felt satisfied where it ended, right? This is for a different podcast with different people, but there's a theory about, like, if you were Team Dean on Gilmore Girls, you liked Tamlin. If you were Team Jess, you're on Reese's side, right? And so I was Team Dean. And so Tamlin was fine to, like, that whole thing. Now you read it and you see everything and you see things. But I think you can read it alone and be satisfied because you don't see those things or you don't recognize them until you have read.
Except for the one piece of foreshadowing at the fire festival, or whatever it is, where she sees Reese for the first time.
Oh yeah.
That is some pretty heavy foreshadowing.
But again,
the most beautiful man I've ever beheld in my
but the
life.
second is all about how Tamlin is useless, absolutely fucking useless. He literally just sits there and then tries to make out with her once, like,
Yeah.
And banger.
and banger, yeah. So like he's just
Even though he knows how much trouble he's gonna get in by doing it.
Yeah.
But he's just useless. He does nothing, and so the second half is you seeing Reese and seeing what he's doing. And then once you have some perspective, you can see a little bit more in the layeredness of it, where Tamlin is just pretty and like.
Yeah, it never did go into and now since we're hard into spoiler territory. Feyre has to free Prythia from a curse. Prythian. I can't stand that word.
Yeah.
But to free Prythian from this curse, he has to do 3 tasks, and Tamlin is sitting right next to Aramantha, right? Just since you're checking
Amaranth.
all of my pronunciation.
I think it's amaranth.
Yeah.
Like the flower. Pretty sure. Anyway, continue.
I'm done with all of you right now. So, well, she has these tasks, and Tamlin does just sit there. It never is expressly stated if he's magic there and he can't move, or if he's choosing not to move. He's just his heart's made of stone, and he just sits there, like, straight, making weird faces behind these permanent masks that they all have to wear. And, it doesn't really sound like... It makes him look like he doesn't give any kind of a fuck whatsoever. Like, they're like, well, you didn't get the girl to say you love you in 50 years. And he's like, well, I guess I'll just sit here and mope. Until the curse is broken, and then he, like, kills somebody, and then, okay, that's all he did.
Yeah,
Yeah, the big bag gets a fucking off-screen death. Like, like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, but it's not, like, about the violence. Like, it never really is. Now, the tasks are very, like they're very rough. There is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So the killing the giant earthworm was not... That was the first time I've
that
ever
was
read
solid.
a story where, like...
I really liked that scene, actually.
Yeah,
that was very well written.
Even in the fantasy books I've read, where, like, she had to, like, create a bone...
Pit
like,
trap.
Minefield that disemboweled this creature. Like, I was like, that's pretty well done.
Right?
Yeah.
But
the other two suck.
The thing where you're like, the answer to your riddle is love, and then bursts out, and then he killed her, right? Like, it's...
Oh my fucking god, you knew that was the answer. She gave you the riddle.
I know.
She might as well have been like, 4 letters, starts with L, ends in OVE. What's the answer?
She's like, I can't read.
Spelling's hard. Yeah. Literally, the second one was like every Legend of Zelda campaign. How do I open the door? I'll just flip the switches until I figure it out.
But there is a theory, right? And so this is like, one of the things is like the mates, right? They talk about their parents being mates and that they're not good matches. So one of the theories is that Tamlin is Amarantha's mate, and he rejected her, right? Because he saw his parents, he saw how unhappy and unhealthy it was. He didn't want that.
I will not find my soulmate.
Yeah.
Meaningless sex forever with humans. That's what teach everyone.
So, like, if you read it from that perspective and you see Amarantha and all of her stuff, and how she rages at the end, like, tell him you don't love him, it's not real, your heart can't handle this, like, you can see that. That is the rage of a scorned woman, and not just someone who's been turned down for sex. Like, that is true deep.
Like you loved him and you're
Yeah.
pissed. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's an interesting viewpoint. It doesn't matter one way or another whether they were mates or not for my storytelling. I think he was just a crazy control freak who.
I want to speak from the perspective of someone that didn't know there was a second book until I finished it, and then Missy was like, "Now you have to go read the second one." I was like, "There's a second one." I mean, it was pretty. I mean, there were threads there, but I feel like
such a hard turn. I'm actually excited to talk about the second book because that one it starts right at the ending of the first book and just goes to the left.
Yeah,
You're just like, wow, this is not the same dynamic I left.
But it's not like the love triangle that, like, so what I, like, how I, like, explain this is, like,
Are we in the second book?
no, I like, Twilight, right? Like, maybe you guys can't, but, like, when it first came out, you knew it was shit. You knew it was awful.
It's currently
You
still shit.
had to read
I didn't.
50 Shades of Grey. It was awful. Everything about it was just horrific.
I was forced to watch one of them by an ex-girlfriend, and we were supposed to watch more of them, and then it didn't happen.
Is that
you guys ended because there was zero chemistry with them. They just, like, were pretty people who didn't even look like.
Although, if you
I
do
like
watch
how Ben said he referred to himself as his girlfriend he used to date. He's like, I remember when I was forced by an ex myself. I'm teasing you, Ben. I know you love that shit.
No, there's something about it
I'll
that
kill you.
captures you, and you know it's bad, you know it's right, but you still gotta read it.
I said that so many times to Missy while reading this book. I was like, this book is horrible. But anyway, I'm going to see what's going to happen. But there's parts of it where you're like, why am I reading this?
Yeah,
Why
I was
am I
like,
reading this? Like,
it's just so trope. Like, it was trope after trope after trope of like even like when they're like she's facing the trials, and it's like, oops, lentils in the fireplace. I was like, really?
yeah,
We're going there?
there was a point where like they're talking about Alice, and I'm like, all of a sudden she just busts out to be our guest VR. I'm like, I fucking do it. You know, like you can just imagine it all just singing and dancing.
Where's the French candlestick?
Yeah, right. And Lucian was the gay candlestick.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which I don't care what they say. He was Lumiere should be a gay candlestick, and like, just makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. It was a story that drew you in, whether you wanted it to or not.
Joel, would you say that this is like The Ring in book form?
The Ring.
Yeah, where it's like you see it and then you have to show it to somebody before, like, you know, you just kind of like die, sort of thing.
I mean, you're saying we have to show it to it. We're literally doing a podcast and a stream about it now. We're like, not even are we trying to? We are broadcasting about it. So I would have to say, yes, absolutely. Like, would I willingly read this book? I honestly am going to, go into Ben's camp and be like, I wouldn't even know this existed. If
I never would have picked it up.
Well, no,
and I live in the house of the person who collects books, and this was one of them.
What I mean by that is, like, if Missy had shown this to you, like, you know, on your, like, off time, you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys, you know, weren't doing the, like, podcast.
If I had $1 for every one of Missy's books that I did not pay attention to or talking about, I would... I mean, if you look behind, that's her library. There are none of my books in there.
That's incorrect. They're mixed, but it's like 9 to 10.
It's like 97.3. What are you talking about? Yeah, no. Missy is a voracious reader, and her taste and my taste, they barely touch. Like, this is lucky. I'm like echoing super bad.
I will say this is probably like the first one where we're not like where one of us isn't like, I hate this thing.
We'll fix that next week when we do my pick, and then Missy's just like, I hate life. You have 2 weeks to read. Only part 1 because it's a big convoluted.
Oh, did you figure out which one you're doing then?
Yeah, we're gonna do part 1 and 2. Which then also allows me for all of my picks, I just get to run the saga for the parts for quite some time. That's making me not have to make as many decisions.
I see.
One way of doing it, I guess.
So that way, like a year from now, you'll have finished the Dune series.
Yeah, absolutely. That is
Okay. We're not actually going to be on that much longer, so I guess we can jump to like final thoughts. Ben, let's start with you.
Overall, I did enjoy this book. Like I said, I had some trouble getting into it at the beginning. It was a little tropey, but in terms of overall, I did find enjoyment in it. There were certain parts where I was like, stop being such a dumb bitch. And then, but like, I got over
literally any character in the book.
Yeah.
Any character in the book.
Literally, every single character in the book, I was like, stop being a
a dumb bitch.
No, not after you see his filter through the second book.
No,
Yeah.
you can still tell him he's being a dumb bitch.
Reese, I could tell him to stop being a dumb bitch because he was just like making her think that he was like this horrible sadistic person, like up until like the last 5 minutes of the book.
Why did he stumble?
Yeah.
Why did he stumble? What are you talking about?
At the end of the book, he stumbled.
Who?
Talking to Sarah, leaving. He stumbled. Why?
I'm going to be honest, I didn't even pay attention to that shit. So
I didn't pick up on that.
So we can learn to pick ourselves back up.
What do we
I'm out.
fall?
That was terrible, right?
Yeah, I feel like
It was horrible.
I did think that there were a lot of parts where I was like, there were a lot of the way a lot of the characters were written, they were like being like dumb, and I know there's like weird curse stuff going on, like fed through like out it, so they couldn't talk about everything, so that's why they're dumb about certain things. But at the same time, it was definitely one of those books where I was like, okay, what happens next? Because there's like, you know, there was always kind of like another thing happening where I was like, ah, god damn it. What now?
The whole thing was like one thing led to
And another thing. And another thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a million and thens that kept you being like, one more and then I'll continue. Then I'll put it down. And then, back into it. I remember I woke up at like 3 a.m. for some reason. Like I couldn't sleep. I woke up. I'm like, I'll read a little bit. Because normally I can read it in the middle of the night and go right back to sleep. No, I was at 49% of the book and I finished that fucking book. It took me like 3 hours because it's just one more and then next thing you know, everybody dropped a little piece of their power at her. She's a fairy now, and
Like a pig.
you're literally.
How did the whole thing is like literally her name is fucking Faye.
Yeah.
And you're like, never once were you like, she's gonna fucking become a Faye.
It took me the whole thing to realize Acotar was an acronym of the title. It's not like I'm a genius here. Like I'm picking up. I'm obviously clueless is part of my name. Like it takes me a while to pick up on it, but no,
Like,
Feyre. I'm gonna be like, got it. She's gonna be a Faye halfway through it. No.
It's like, alright. I was like, I get
Missy,
Thera,
like,
I get
okay, over
Tadlin.
here.
Where's this Acotar cunt?
Yeah, like where the fuck is this Acotar guy? Why is it called that? And then right at the end, where I was like, oh, maybe. I wasn't even confident when I thought about it. I was like, maybe it stands for Court of Thorns and Roses. I'm not a smart reader. Like, I'm just gonna...
He just like closed it and look at the title and like, huh.
That's my idea.
Look at the front cover, you're like,
but of course, no. I really should have
maybe.
picked up the fact that girl Faye. Like...
And he runs our D&D campaign.
Dude, you guys need any dice. Don't use what he's using.
If you need any dice. Speaking of dice, Tabletop Loot.
I just got a new set of sets today from
that's
tabletoploot.com.
tabletoploot.com. Order before the 20th to get your 4 sets of dice in both on August, because we're going to be going into the So, order before the 20th, and you can get your August sets today. 4 sets for $25. You can't go wrong. They're randomized every month, and we just got our sparkly set today, didn't we, Ben?
Yeah, they're pretty.
They're very pretty.
They're pretty and colorful.
Some kind of unique text on the numbering and whatnot. It's some interesting stuff.
And then if you're not really feeling like the dice subscription, you can just go to their site and pick something out and take a 15% off on us using NOL15 as your discount code.
That's right. That's NOL15 for 15% off of anything in their store. So then, going from Ben down to Joel.
We have just recently learned I struggled with some various parts of this book, much like the words that composed it.
If I ever need to stump you in character, I'm just going to start throwing in acronyms.
You did that in the very first game we played. You did that all the time. And we both work for a company that is obsessed with acronyms. I have no idea what's going on most of the time. But I liked the story. It was not. I mean, some of the tasks were interesting. Not the first task was interesting. The world building, I think, was well done. I think one of the things I did like is you could go online and actually look at characters like the cereal and what was Alice? Doesn't matter. She's a brownie. But they took actual fae from folklore and brought them into it. So that always is neat to me when they use existing legends and myths in the story, in modern stories. As far as, it was engaging. I have kind of screwed myself by moving on to the second book, which the world explodes in the second book, and it's so much more. And you get such a different view. So it's really hard to go back to what I thought to the first book, knowing what I know now of the second book. And the motivations, now I know the reasons that Reese was such a bastard and why he did what he did. You learn all of that in the second book, and it totally changes the character. I do agree with Missy. The book stands alone by itself. You don't pick up any of the other books that has a satisfactory ending. If you start into the second book, you're going to be fucked for another 12 and a half hours if you have the audiobook or recently. Is it? Okay, well, apparently I read a lot faster because according to this podcast, I'm skipping words.
For the second one?
So,
how long is it?
The second one is 43 hours.
God damn it.
Ben's like, fuck, I guess
I read it. I listened to it at 1.3, and the first one at 1.3 speed, and it was still 12.
Yeah, so the first one's short, right? The second one, you're like Harry Potter, you grow in length.
Yeah.
It was.
Just wait until you get to that moment.
A lot of sheathing in this.
Really just.
And the cries of the dying drowns out their moans. Welcome.
The cries of the dying drowns out their moans. That was actually a decent.
That didn't sound fun.
Little part of Ben is just how much sheathing goes on the battlefield.
How long do I have to read to get to the dying part?
A lot of sheathing.
I know there's very little sheathing going on in the second book. In the very first few chapters, there's a lot of sheathing, but it's lackluster sheathing. So, but all in all, I liked it. It was fun. I did miss some key points, as Missy keeps pointing out. But I missed that her name was Girl Faye the whole time.
Yeah. I did think there was one thing that annoyed me was how similar Tamlin was to Matthew in Discovery of the Witches.
Oh my god, yes! Cold fury constantly.
Yeah, it was and then his claws popped out and I knew he was angry.
Yeah, he's mid-shapeshift all day long.
Tamlin is pretty. He's got a lot going on up there, and he's very strong. And so he is.
Yeah, he's Matthew.
If you say that more annoying, he is a man.
He was pretty much like Matthew, but dumb. And then also useless when it finally when it finally gets to the point where it matters. Matthew did the same thing in the first book, where all of a sudden there's like all of a sudden a real fight happens and Matthew gets knocked out in the first 5 seconds.
Did you know that the bad guy in the third book is named Benjamin? Did
No.
you like read that spoiler and you were like, oh,
I have no idea that was the case.
No, now he's super into whatever it is. He's like, there's a Benjamin in here and he's the bad guy. I fucking love it.
In which series?
It's the third book. It's the book of life.
Oh, I'm not reading that. I heard how that ends. I'm not reading it. I heard how that book series ends. I'm not reading it because it's going to make me so much more angry than the first one even did.
No, I do. There is a lot of the like weirdly raised emotional stuff. Yeah, the cold fury, which he sat there and cold rage.
It's like, where were you, Wolverine?
It's like you get this imagination of him just sitting there, like rigid with anger, while his hands are constantly in the half state of transformation. And you're like, what are you doing? Like this emotionally incompetent like thing who's supposed to be this like ancient
immortal thing.
You guys are getting off topic. I will give my final.
Fine. Sorry. I just wanted to point it out that pissed me off. That kept pissing me off throughout the whole book.
That's funny. Missy, shut the fuck up.
Yep, we're done.
I'm gonna go. All right, my fault.
Because I want to say this, and then I want to hear Bryan.
You dumbass. Shut the fuck up.
So, book talk is a thing. So if you're on TikTok, this is a book talk journey, right? There are some books that are recommended over and over and over. If you use this as a gateway drug, you will find smuttier books with worse plots, but more satisfying. So just take
more satisfying.
Some of them are shit. So do that with what you will. This can be a gateway into a very specific genre of books.
I like how Bryan doesn't even crack a smile over there. Ben looks like he just walked in on his parents.
This is just the beginning. This is like I said.
Ben's like
maybe a 1.5. This is amateur level, and you can get it.
That's like just remember, the more you ratchet up that spicy level, Missy, the more likely I'm going to drop my Gaskell Thraka trump card. That
book was terrible.
But I will tell you that there are several. You didn't finish Ashes of Onyx, right? So I don't have to finish. I just got started.
Yeah, did you finish? You have to finish Ashes of Onyx.
I did finish it. I finished listening to it.
I feel like you're lying. Tell us how it ended. 5 words or less. Go.
I can't remember because there's like 3 books in the middle.
No,
I literally did. I did finish it, I swear.
Bryan laid on us.
Well, I mean, I think that he's a monster for not finishing Ashes of Onyx.
I'm telling you, I finished the damn book. I just didn't finish it in time. After you guys told me about the rest of it, I was like, well, I gotta fucking go listen to the rest of this book now, because it actually sounds cool.
I love the story of, like, Bryan is, like, the quiet, like, I've read all this.
Shit, sir.
You and I are the impassioned one way or the other about it. And Ben is, like, the stodgy disagreeer for any of it. No matter what the story is, Ben's like, fuck, I hate this. You and I go either way, but we're both, like, pretty into it. And Bryan's like, yes, minions, tell me more about this world I'm dragging you into. Right? So, Puppet Master, what was your impressions?
When I read it the first time, because, I mean, this may be because I knew that there was more to it, because my wife, by that point, already had, like, everything. Like, because the way that I kind of, like, got into this sort of thing was my wife had the Silver Flames on, like, pre-order at Barnes & Noble, because she had, like, the special, like, author's edition or whatnot. Yeah. So I remember very clearly she couldn't go pick it up because like she had to be to work early, and so I took the time and I went to the bookstore to get it for her. And so actually I didn't even start with the first book because I had to like kind of wait for my wife And so I kind of like cracked open the Silver Flames, and I was like starting to read a little bit of it, and I was just like, what the fuck is even happening? It was terrible.
I don't mind her. What? That's because you're stupid.
Sorry, continue.
So I was like, okay, well, I gotta know what the fuck is going on here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, okay, well, yeah, sure. So I go back and I read the first book, and I thought it was good, but I don't know. It was almost like sometimes you can see the author's hand. You know what I'm saying? Like certain things will happen because the author says that they do.
Yeah.
And that, like, I don't know, that jumped out a lot to me in this one. Not that it was bad, just that, like, I don't know, it was almost like seeing the author kind of, like, go through the process of writing the book so that she can get to the second book, if that makes any sense.
It does feel that way. Now that I'm in the second book, it does feel like,
Yeah.
it was all one much bigger story.
It's almost like she wanted to write the second book, but she thought that it would be too much, like, backstory and everything else, like, for, like, yeah. So,
that's
like,
a great way to put it, is it does feel like, after you read, it does feel like book one was like, well, let me write the history
This
of
is
today.
the primer on
Yeah.
book 2.
Like, what I've said all along is no one reads Acotar or Acotar, right? Like,
Yeah.
no one reads it for the first, like, you read it for
See,
the
that
second.
made sense when I figured out.
yeah, because if you jump straight into... If you jump straight into the second book, you're still going to have that problem where it's all like, what the fuck is it going on? Like, you know, but if you read the first book, it gives you like a firm foundation to move into the second book, which is where you feel like her passion really was taking her in the first place.
Well, we'll fix that. We'll do the second book next time. So, because
Well, that's if that's...
yeah, we got a full cycle.
I do believe that is Missy's choice. Who knows? Maybe she's going to surprise you guys with something else. Because now she's already got you into the second book. She doesn't need to recommend it.
Yeah.
They're just gonna read it and then be like,
We can-
all right,
we
you're
could-
gonna do it this
We
time.
could do a bonus episode. I don't care.
Yeah. This is the book of life. And Ben just, I could just imagine the rage of Ben, like, reading the third of Discovery of Witches, just sitting there. He'd be seething by the end of it. It's just
I
worse.
know. Because I told you the way better ending.
Would he be seething or would he be sheathing?
He'd be doing both.
Anyway, I told you the way better ending of what's the name of the damn book? The Book of Life. I told Joel the best ending that they could have given that book, and they didn't go that direction. It was way worse.
What was the best ending? I didn't remember.
My thought was that, like, since we figure out that what's her shit's is a time walker, that she can go way back in time, and we find out the reason she has all these, like, superpowers, all these, like, all of the witch powers, she goes back in time, and then she becomes, like, the, like, mother of all witches sort of things. Like, she becomes, like, the original source of magic that teaches everybody how to do the witch stuff.
That's kind of the ending.
Yeah,
that's kind of the ending, except less.
But her bloodline is all of the witches. She is descended from the proctors and the bishops and all of those that were burned at the stake.
Yeah. And then she goes back to the beginning and, like, makes it happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible ending.
Okay. So, I do believe that's just about everything.
Yeah.
I you know what? I'm going to make a interesting prediction here. I'm going to think that Missy's next book for us, not the next book we're going to do, because I do believe Joel is still set
I'll
on...
have second book. Like, if we want to just make this a series, we can do this one. I can ride Dune later.
I bet you anything, her next book for us, Ladies First.
I don't know what that is. I'll look it up.
It's just gonna be
I mean,
just a
obviously
dictionary of clever ways to say penetrated.
No,
and Ben's just gonna be like,
it's something about how ladies should be first, but I'll look it up.
If
Maybe
only the internet was available to us right now.
Oh god, I'm gonna get like a text message at like, fucking 7 p.m. and she's gonna be like, I fucking hate you.
Well, the first thing that came up was a song by Queen Latifah.
Same.
I mean,
No! We will not! No! We are not doing that book.
the manga book?
The manga book. Fuck you, Bryan.
Fuck with you all.
Oh my god, I heard about this.
I
heard
did.
about this. The word's supposed to be like she goes to discredit the mangas, and then it's like, they're so open-minded. I love it. Oh my god, yeah, I heard about that. Like, it's painful to read it. I am not.
I'm in.
I am not in. Read that.
She's doing the Rick and Morty thing. You bastard, I'm in.
It got 1.5 on Goodreads. 2% like this book. This one. Oh my god. Hold on. There's reviews.
No,
I'm quitting the podcast if any of you picks this book. I will not read that filth.
I'll send you the.
You can read it. You can read it yourself. I will
Oh
not.
my god. This was only 79 pages long. I couldn't finish it.
Like, I bet you guys just.
Only if you find me a pirated copy, because I will not give that person money.
This is the best one ever. She didn't come first. Or at least I would assume she won't, because there was no sexy time. If a book could be enhanced with sex, this would be the one. Otherwise, it's useless. Sad dribble and attempt to make the manga wearers feel better. The line, if I'm only called a racist, then I must be doing all right, was uttered, and this author thought she was doing something with that. That's not the flex you think it is. So, oh my god.
Wow.
Alright, what's our book next time, guys?
Family men to her father was disturbing. And I expect the MAGA inbreds to be thinking.
Joel, what's our next book?
Fuck it! Let's just read the comment.
Alright. This I can live with.
Oh my god. That was horrible, and I'm upset. Missy's already bought 4 copies, so I guess we're all getting one.
They're part of Prime Day.
Oh my god. I don't know. I entered this confident in my decision that we will be doing Dune. Part of me wants to do the second book. It's up to you. You want to do the second book and just follow Acotar to its end, and then I'll bitch about Nesta together?
Is it too much?
Is it too much? Ben, is it too much?
Is it too much?
For you, Ben, do you need a palate cleanser?
I can do the next one. It's fine. It seems like if Joel's this into it, I will probably be fine with this next book.
Okay. Let's do the second book.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
I'm not saying I consent to doing the entire series, but I will do the next book.
I'm only gonna be. You got what's the name of the second book? Because I'll mess it up. Is there an acronym?
Yeah, I need
It's a mist and. Yeah. So the second one is a court of mist and fury.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
All right.
It is so much better than the first one. Yes.
And there it is. All right. We'll do that as our next book. Does that mean that I'm up for after that, or is it back to Missy?
So we had, it's back to you.
All right. Since you and Missy kind of took a combined one there, so.
Well, it's in the telling of this one. In this episode, we tried to all talk about just Acotar, and we kept referencing the second book. So I think it just makes sense to follow it with the second book.
That's fine.
Yeah, because there is a lot that goes. I haven't read the third book. I'm not right now heavily inclined to, because I'm still got probably 40% of the second book left.
The third one, I predicted is going to be better. Because that's
You're just hoping you're trying to get him to recommend the book.
No, that's where, like, the first one...
Oh, it's all fighting. Yeah, all right. There's a lot of war in the third book. Okay.
The first one, you get a primer with Amarantha. The second one, you learn what's coming, and then the third one's Bryn.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot, and I did spoiler read.
The novella's awful, and the fourth book is just pure sin. There is no fun. It's just nothing.
Yeah, I heard Joel was saying something about Nesta becomes, like, basically just, like, fucks her way across the entire Fey realm or something like that.
Yeah, because she's...
So she rage bangs the thing. So that's sheathing for days.
No, most of her banging happens off stage, the last one.
And that's where I started.
Oh, really? Is it?
I expected a lot more penetration in this story, but there's just none. Alright.
Alright, I think that's sort of the end of ours.
Mystic Fury.
We're next week or
2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks, sorry.
Okay.
I mean, if we want, I suppose we could. I mean, there's nothing stopping us from doing it next week, I suppose. Wait, no, we need time to let Ben actually read it.
Yeah. And then you say it's a 24-hour read.
We have to let Ben decompress.
Ben's gonna feel like just reading.
I'm gonna have to like be listening to this at work for like if we're doing it next week, that's like all I'm doing at work while I'm also like working.
He's gonna be sitting there at work just shaking.
Fanning himself.
Fanning himself. He's
give me 2 weeks. If it's that long, give me 2 weeks.
He's catching the vapors.
Yeah, I don't remember Collins being such a spicy place.
I will say, I did finish Ashes of Onyx. Since you guys were saying I didn't, but I did finish it right like the next day after we did our episode. So you will read Gaskell Thraka, Prophet of the Wa, eventually.
So much backstory will be needed for Missy to be like, what the fuck is even happening?
No, you don't.
You need so much more.
All you need to worry about is them's the orcs and them's the red boys. Don't worry about nothing else.
So Henry Cavill is like a big fan, right? Like if he's narrating the book, I'm in.
It's not. It's a British guy.
Yeah.
It's just. It's no.
You're not.
Actually,
you're not in.
Actually, the VA for that.
So hard into not Missy, not giving a fuck territory. This is like if I gave you a sandwich that is nothing but tomatoes slathered with ketchup.
So remember reading like Pilgrim's Progress and hating it, like but having to finish it. Like where are we?
Okay, you know where Pilgrim's Progress was a 1?
Yeah.
Right there. It's right there. Like the only way you would finish is if you got a grade. So if Bryan would ascribe you like a grade, you might be willing to do it, but other than that, absolutely not.
I feel like the VA for this book was like really good, though.
It was. Cool. It was very good, but it was. I like Warhammer, and I'm not like. And even for me, I was like, "This is the thing." This is
very like Ben Warhammer though. Like,
yeah, it is Ben.
You like Horus Heresy stuff. I'm like, just give me my orcs and I'm happy.
Just so you know, she says if we read that, we are reading Pride and Prejudice, which is her favorite book of all time.
I like Pride and Prejudice.
And our daughter are getting named.
I like Pride and Prejudice. I'll read that shit again.
Because of Pride and Prejudice.
Elizabeth was from Sweet Valley High. Thank you very much.
Okay,
I said I'll read
Charles Bingley laying on the ground right now, chewing on his bone, next to Fitzwilliam Darcy, who is our other dog. Both characters from Pride and Prejudice. So
it's like you're acting like I wouldn't read Pride and Prejudice again. I read it again. I read that book. I had 4 sisters. I watched the show.
You just want to fight? Is that what you're doing? You're just gonna have a verbal battle? Oh yeah? You think I wouldn't read it again? I'll read the shit out of it.
No, I did. I enjoyed that novel. That was not bad.
We're gonna read the entirety of the Horse Heresy. That'll teach you, Missy.
He didn't. He hated it.
I enjoyed Pride and Prejudice. That's pretty solid. Just got some political intrigue and shit going on. It's a fun time.
The audiobook I read was the audiobook I listened to.
I had to read it in high school. It was fun.
It was terrible, and apparently all they did was take furtive glances at each other while walking around the salon. And I'm like, why is this a book? And then they're just, every now and then, their mother would be like, business! And he's like, quiet. That's what I took out of it.
I do think later we should revisit some...
Missy says we might have gotten slightly off topic.
We did.
That's okay.
Yeah. All right.
We're kind of wrapping up.
We are losing focus, so...
I do want to point out that we should maybe revisit Discworld when some of those, like, celebrity VAs do their thing for... Like,
Yeah,
you agree?
I saw it on Audible that they were coming out, and I was excited.
Yeah.
For some of them. David Tennant, I think.
Yeah, they've got, like, David Tennant, Andy Serkis. Like, I want to, like, just go back and do all the Discworld stuff just for those.
All of this later, because we are at time. Discworld would need a lot of prep because it's hard to focus because it's like talking about a dream that you heard somebody else tell you about. Like, it's very, it's not an easy linear story.
I think we'd have to be more selective about the novel.
Correct.
But
I'm
just saying, once those start coming out, I want to go back to
Court
that.
of Mist and Fury is what we're going to be on.
I agree, Ben.
Okay, so next time on our book review, we do Court of Mist and Fury. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we hope you had fun listening to us. And
I didn't see when Bryan turned it to the side. I was like, "Holy shit, that book's thick as shit!"
In front of your face.
Nah, you just held it like this. I didn't.
Okay.
for, I guess, reference. Yeah.
Fuck me sideways. That's
There's a monster.
Sorry. Continue.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope you'll join us next time. I've been Bryan.
Yeah. I've been Ben.
Hi, everyone.
Have a good night.
We'll see you on Wednesday for our normal D&D stream. Thanks, everybody. Good night.